It's time for The Hard Way Podcast, the saga of an award-winning journalist trying to make it as a family man, despite having no idea what he's doing. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Matt Schorr.
Hey, thanks for checking out the second episode of the Hard Way Podcast. I hope that if you're listening to this episode, it means you also checked out the first one. If not, go check it out. It was our first one to be a part of history, right? This is a historical podcast. It's one day going to be a huge deal, and you can tell people that you were there when it all started. So go check that out. And, while we're talking about that, let's just jump right in and say, go ahead and subscribe. Would you subscribe to the podcast and leave us a nice review, a good 5-star rating, boost the algorithm and get the word out about us. That would be, a wonderful help. So that out of the way, welcome once again to the Hard Way Podcast, the podcast where I welcome the entire world to just stop, take a moment to relax and laugh at my pain. For years, I had a humor column that I wrote for the Leaf Chronicle newspaper that was all about the trials and tribulations that I had, first as a newlywed, then as a first-time father, and now as a family man who, throughout it all, the one constant has been that I don't have a clue how to do any of this. So it's made for some interesting narratives to share with the public. And I just had such a good time doing it. I just finally thought, this could be a podcast. So here we are. Call it an experiment, call it what you will, but it is what it is. And I had a good time with the first episode. I'm so far having a good time with this one. If it keeps up, I'll keep this going. The plan is for this to be a bi-weekly podcast, so I hope you'll keep checking this one out and staying with us. Speaking of podcasts, though, a big important milestone that I need to make mention is the Tales from a Small Town Journalist podcast, my original one. Call it the flagship, if you will, at this point. We just celebrated 4 years with that podcast, which is quite an accomplishment, I'm told. They say that most podcasts barely make it a year, and that one just celebrated 4. So go check that one out if you would. There's some great episodes there. You can find it wherever you listen to your podcast, as well as on YouTube. We just wrapped up an interview with the mayor of my hometown, Kathy Onam, where she told us how my hometown was doing after a tornado ravaged it 1 year ago. Our upcoming podcast, next episode, I will be chatting with Jimmy Settle, former business reporter for the Leaf Chronicle newspaper, who is now the director of communications for the city of Clarksville. That's a pretty big I don't know if promotion is the right word. I don't want to call it a step up. That feels like an insult to somebody somewhere, but it's a huge accomplishment for him. And he's definitely got some stories to share about both his time in journalism and working with the city. So check that one out when it comes out next month. I don't think you'll be disappointed. But first, a word from Schorr Manor. Hey, if you haven't already, be sure to visit the official Schorr Manor online t-shirt shop, the purveyors of all things spooky and all things Halloween, as long as it's in t-shirt form. You can find it at mattshore.net. Just click on shop at the top of the page. And while you're there, be sure to use the promo code journalist and get 10% off of everything in the store. Once again, that's mattshore.net and click on shop at the top of the page. All right, on this episode, we're going to be talking about an important milestone. If you care to know, it's my birthday. Well, at least it was recently, just a few days ago. I'm not going to tell you exactly when, but I had some thoughts and feelings that I feel like are worth sharing about. Well, once again, I stared down the Reaper, and once again, the Reaper blinked. I became another year older this week. Don't ask how many years. It's a closely guarded secret. Even my wife doesn't know how old I am, mostly because she just keeps forgetting. You might think that, as an adult, I don't like celebrating my birthday, that I abandoned the need for parties and gifts and social merriment when I stopped being a child. And you'd be partially correct. I don't do parties, and I'm not known for being merry. But I do see it as cause for celebration. The reasons are just a little bit different. As a kid, it was an excuse for a party. I saw my friends, we had a good time. We once even went to Showbiz Pizza, which, for those who remember, was Chuck E. Cheese before the mouse. It was also better. I discovered the first Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles arcade game there, the first game I ever saw that allowed 4 people to play at once. I later discovered the one and only X-Men game, the fighting games don't count, which let 6 people play at once. Again, this was all before the mouse took over. Now it's essentially a stale cheese-encrusted hellscape. Anyway, today I see birthdays as so much more than an excuse for a party. It's a milestone, an achievement. Perhaps it's because of the pandemic or all the mass shootings or maybe even the half dozen prophesied end of the world scenarios I survived. But now I see each one as an accomplishment. I made it. I'm still here. COVID didn't kill me. An AR-15 didn't shoot me. Politics didn't overwhelm me. My kids haven't pushed me into the grave. Another year down, and I'm still here. Take that, Lord Death. So honestly, is there really any greater cause for celebration than that? If I were a drinker, I might take it as an opportunity to down some shots and throw back a half dozen beers. I'm not a drinker though, so I settled for a glass of wine. Sweet wine, fruit flavored wine. Like I said, I'm not a drinker. So now I'm forging ahead on another year of life, one filled with new experiences and new challenges. COVID is still out there. There are more guns in America than people, and I'm sure there are a few more end of the worlds that are going to be on some other ancient calendars out there somewhere. Here's hoping and believing, let's think positive here, that I'll be back in 12 months to commemorate another full year I beat death's unending attempts to take me down. Happy birthday to me, you scythe-wielding sack of crap.
Upcoming events.
On the weekend of February the 2nd through the 5th, my wife and I will be attending the Trans World Halloween and Attraction Show in St. Louis, Missouri. So, throughout the entire month of February, be on the lookout on all of our social media channels for all sorts of spooky Halloween content because Trans World is always a great time. There's so many things to see, do, hear, people to talk to. It's always great. We come up with a whole lot of cool stuff. So, be on the lookout for that one. And then in the next month, March 18th, I will be returning to Clarksville Con right here in my hometown, Clarksville, Tennessee. That one is held at Quality Inn, Exit 4, right there right there at the heart of the financial business district of Clarksville, Tennessee. So feel free to stop by and check that one out. Say hi to me, all the other creators who are there. It's always a good time. The following month, I'll be at the Louisville Con, which will be held at the Triple Crown Pavilion. That'll be April the 8th. Once again, if you're in the area, stop by and say hello. Then the following month will be Free Comic Book Day on May the 6th, the holiest of all holidays for comic book readers like myself. Stop by Rick's Comic City in Clarksville, Tennessee if you're in the area. Say hello. There'll be some other creators there, and show Rick some love while you're there as well. And then on June, the weekend of the 9th through the 10th, is the Superman celebration in Metropolis, Illinois. Always a big deal in that town, and I try to go back every year. Stop by and say hi to me, the other creators, all the other cosplayers and fans who are there. And if you see him, tell Superman I'm waiting for him. And that wraps things up there. So I think now we're going to be winding down as we move on to
Cheap plugs.
This podcast is a production of Schorr Manor Studio, an indie publishing and production house for all things spooky. Be sure to look us up on YouTube by visiting tinyurl.com/Schorr Manor YouTube, or just search for Schorr Manor. We'll show up right away. All of this show's episodes are there with full video, so check that out. You can also sign up for our official newsletter at tinyurl.com/Schorr Manor newsletter and get all of our latest news and announcements delivered right to your inbox. Be sure to sign up and maybe even tell a friend or two. If you'd like to connect with me directly, there are several ways that you can do that. You can find me on Twitter at @TheMattSchorr, on Instagram at TheSchorr, and on TikTok at @the1MattSchorr. That's the number 1 Matt Schorr, or just by email at mattschorr@hotmail.com. And you can look us up on our official website at www.mattschorr.net, where you'll find this and previous episodes archived, not to mention our online book and t-shirt stores. Just click on the podcast link at the top of the page. So thanks again for checking out this episode. And remember, keep reading and keep listening. Thanks.